While getting things done, I'm taking a look at articles and stuff, and I've just got a really crazy people everywhere, all over the place. Western Oregon. Now the lunatics are everywhere in the streets doing whatever they want. This summer is going to be way crazy as these people are ginned up into trouble. There's something actually I started to think about the reaction to a lot of these protests. This reaction has happened so quickly that it simply can't be taken lightly. Oh, interesting. Oh, they're building this kind of deal here too. Okay. Slowly cutting off the streets. Slowly making it where you can't park downtown, so you don't go downtown. Yep, and desperate. Everything is desperate attempts now. Desperate attempts at development. This will work. This, you see, if we do this will suddenly make people able to buy our boomer assets. See, so this project that they're doing here, this won't. Oh yeah, that's the one of the homeless places to eat, but it's not going to sell this building. See, that's the thing. Doing that to the parking, like in San Francisco, won't sell buildings. It's not going to work. And now something that's happened. Look at the stairs there. Solar panels. So that's another one. Solar panels. See, they got to put the magic talisman in the window so that nobody does anything to the building. The solar panel whole market, the whole field, it's all falling apart now because it was about sales, it was about promises, wasn't about long-term results. They're more and more. Everything that liberals are about, there's the long-term results aren't there. Oh, look at Kitty. Look at that cat. Cat's trying to figure out what's the deal with this. What did they build here? What is that? Is that for me to poop in? You see, these are actually a very good idea. This is something that they got, I believe this is based on something from Thailand or something like that. And what it is that because of all the trees that we have, they have to catch the leaves. And so we get the horrible pilings of leaves. And so for months, it'll be this dangerous leafy sludge that is just decaying on the sides of the streets. And so that, and then whenever it floods, it floods. But also, this is the beautiful part of it. It's not flooded so horribly that this is being built in emergency. This is being built ahead of time. They actually are building this ahead of time. I'm actually very, very impressed. But it doesn't matter in a way. And here's an example. See, anything that people can mess up now is getting messed up because the streets are ruled by gangs of homeless miscreants. And really, I mean, it really is. You can hear them outside of your windows all the time talking about nothing, all night, and then going to go and do something. And it's just, so, now, so the reaction that's happened with all these protests has been so quick, has been so fast. Then there's so many people who I've seen now on YouTube. I'm seeing a lot of people make commentary then about the really ideological things. So remember, Antifa, its ideology was not really delved into except for by the right. The left did this kind of candy coating. Oh, they are strictly against fascism. They hate it in all its forms, and they're and it's, everybody now understands the bullshittery that was going on with that. But now there's more and more, you're seeing people starting to discuss what is it that Hamas actually believes, what makes them the group they are. And that's very important, because the GOP slept on this for way too long. They needed to jump on this a long time ago. And it was only the far deep right that we were on top of it. That it was like, no, they're Marxist-Leninists. All of these people are Marxist adherents of some sort or another. Fascists and Nazis base a lot of their thinking on Marx and opposing the communist Marxists, and that this all has to do with this poisonous seed thinking called Marxism, which is antithetical to the fundamental ideas of the constitutional republic. And now, you see, one of the big things is that the GOP is going to actually have to start embracing a lot of that kind of language. Too much of where the GOP is at is kind of this goofy mom language. Stuff that you could put on a t-shirt about like feeling good about the states, instead of, no, there's absolute principles that America adheres to, and that we think of humans differently than other parts of the world, other systems of thinking. Like the Japanese have our constitution, but like Europe does not think of citizens' rights the same way as we do. Their legal structure is not put together the same way in the EU as ours is. Their rights are conditional. Our rights are inalienable. And it's a totally different kind of construction. And ours is superior. That's why we're the fucking best. And everybody is jockeying our fresh at all times. So Hamas needs to be discussed in that context. They're Marxist-Leninists. Their interpretation of Islam comes out of the Salafi and Wahhabi schools. So their concept of a human is very different. This idea that you have individualism, you have individual goals, that you're a decent human being who has like some kind of rights to themselves. Hamas can't think that by credo. They can't believe things like that. Their thinking has to do with the revolution, the endless revolution, and because they see the endless revolution as fundamentally parallel with jihad. These two things are the same. They think that Marx is whatever he is, but they see those two as inherently linked, and because they're thugs. they're just camel bandits, and that they believe in rapacious, coercive methods to achieve their goals. They don't think like we do, that if you trust your people and they vote, that rational thinking will actually guide moral thought. That Islam can't think that. That's another fundamental flaw of Islam in itself, is that the certain rational morality is an idea that came later, when they actually had to deal with losing, when they started to lose against the Christian world, without having to actually deal with other people's thinking at the end of a gun or at the end of a lance. They don't, and because they don't have to. That's another issue that especially the GOP has to take on, is the Quran is its own book. It is not based on the Bible. It has nothing to do with the New or the Old Testament. It just has random references to people who are in it. The GOP has to take this on. They have to be ready to offend Islam. And they have to. And it doesn't matter, especially that they have because there's people who are like, oh, you know, we're all, you know, the biblical religions. It's like, no, the Quran doesn't have the Psalms. It doesn't have Deuteronomy. It doesn't have the Book of Kings. It doesn't have, no. No, it's not. It is. So it's, that this is now something that the GOP has to deal with. And that when the references are made in the Quran to Judaism and Christianity, the reference is made is that there are these belief systems that are in fundamental error, and that they have gone out of their way to be errant. That's another big one. They went out of their way to be errant, by changing their doctrines or changing their scriptures. So when there's this kind of idea of like, oh, how could they crush these students' protests? It's like, no, that's the morality of the argument of the protesters. You are allowed to crush it according to their own moral arguments. Their moral arguments are coming from Marxist-Leninism and Wahhabist and hardcore Salafist Islam. And all those systems believe in power, in strength. They're not about ideas. Like, this is why it was really funny when that whole thing of that moment that the guys confront the Antifa guys and say to him, do some push-ups, and he goes, this isn't about strength, it's about ideas. And it's like, you dumb bitch, you're Antifa. This isn't about ideas. Like, by definition of the way that you guys function, this is obviously not about your ideas. This is about the fact that you have strength in numbers. Your favorite band is called Strength in Numbers. I couldn't believe it. I just thought it was so good that this moment that you get to see the weak phoniness of the lefties, you know, just shown forth. You know, it's not even it's by principle and by who they really are. Just weak, glass-backed, silk palms, and insisting suddenly on, well, no, this is only about force when we know we'll win. This is about ideas when we know that you'll beat our ass. So it's like, so I just loved it. I really, and that was this naked moment. And every once in a while with hippies, you'll get this, where you have to tell some hippie, you know, like, you're about to get slapped, and they suddenly change their whole kind of thing. Yeah, once a hippie gets to the point where you're about to backhand them, things suddenly change, and so one of the things that now a lot of people are going to have to start getting this idea of is, it's okay to backhand the commies. Their morality is not a morality of, oh, the working class has this really great point about the way they're not or are being rewarded for their work. That's not what's going on. No, they're entirely based around strength in numbers. So if they show up with a bunch of people where you are and they feel like winning the fight, then they'll start one. But their ideology, like this idea that there's some highfalutin set of ideals and principles that they have, it's just not there, and never has been. And they really present this all the time, being that they're willing to openly on social media, these types will excuse crime, saying that it has something to do with being working class. That punishing crime is punishing the working class for some kind of natural behavior of the working class, which none of us understand this. You know, like, that's why you have a job, is so you don't commit crime. I mean, it's just one of these things. I mean, it's just, and when you know, this idea that you're working class, you're not a criminal, and but they know what they're doing, and that's why people who are GOP, people are like, oh, the Gaza protesters, oh, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, we get to crush you. And we get to crush you because your ideology is anti-moral from our point of view. And that when they get an opportunity to point out this is right behavior and this is wrong behavior, people are misunderstanding the morality of this or that behavior, they always end up saying something monstrous. So we get to crush them. the left gets to get squished, and they want to. That's another part of it that I don't think that, like, the GOP, I think people, they get this, like, kind of Republicans get this. The ones who are really theologically advanced, I think they really get this. That they understand what they're seeing. They're like, no, this is like many cults of various times in Christian record, and that they're destruction cults. That there are these cults that sort of that you, when you really start to become aware of what their theology is, what their thinking is, you don't really understand how these are supposed to last much longer than a generation because of the choices that they make, the lifestyle they force people to live, things like that. That's why there's a bunch of heretical views. Yeah, here it is. Okay, it's on Oak Street. Okay. Anderson Watchmaking, antique and vintage watches. Okay. I'm going to have to get in touch with this guy about my watch. Oh, let's see. Well, he does service on really expensive watches. So I probably, if I could get in touch with him or her, they'll put me on to either their services or whomever they recommend. Uh-oh. I'm going to be making a turn. Here we go. So, oh, okay. Or not, or you won't be making a turn. I like that. So this idea of, oh, how could you suppress them? How could you do this? They have rights, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, yeah. As American citizens, all these people have rights to protest, blah, blah, blah. The thing is that we get to show a particular prejudice against this argument. And it's because it's monstrous. It's not that it's about even particularly Jew hate. No, this would instantaneously, this can be translated into Islamic arguments against anyone, against any group. That nobody's getting that about the Hamas, Marxist-Leninists, and its combination with Islam. Islam doesn't belong in any place other than the country of Saudi Arabia. It is from Saudi Arabia. If people convert to it, they convert to it, but it's spread through it's spread through openly and admittedly. It's spread through violence and coercion. And so one of the things that has to be understood about this then is, okay, so when you are colonizing, the Islam colonizes other nations, definitively. It's actually almost the exemplar of this. And so we get to absolutely oppose it, being that even its very form of governance is something that harkens to autocracy, monarchy, and theology, and theocracy. There is no way Islam runs without theocracy. This veiled attempt at having Western Republic things, it doesn't even, Islam doesn't have a structure for that. They borrow on Marxist, Leninist, and that kind of history, so that they could kind of come up with something that's like a modern governing system that they could say, yeah, no, this is, we totally can adapt to modern governance. but by its own structure by admission is theocratic. It doesn't believe in a power system or a governmental system that isn't based on a certain theocratic set of tiers of power and authority. It just so a lot of people are fooling themselves about getting along with this ideology, about its biblical adherence, and that it has something to do with the biblical tradition. People are fooling themselves. And it's understandable because they want to be open-minded. They want to be cool. They want to be cool to other people. They don't want to be uncool to other people. That's a critical thing about, like, when the West is rich, the individuals of it want to be cool to other people. And hence why the Western world, when it started getting rich, voluntarily fed the entire developing world through charity. And that's absolutely a fact. Like, that Christian charity fed whole continents during the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And that hurts a lot of people's feelings. That normal people in America actually are really like that. That really hurts Antifa and leftist types in their arguments about America and how Americans really are, how Americans behave. They really, really, really resent that. It's like, no, actually, when Americans get the opportunity, they prove themselves to be exceedingly generous and charitable to other groups of people. Yeah, just wanted to put that out there. Now, there's many people who could argue this, that, and the other about Zionism, and honestly, my whole thing is, but my argument with the West is, you're quite familiar with it already. What has happened is that a lot of people who've come out of the Islamic world, they've come out from Islam, and they've tried to explain to the left and the right, like, a lot of these ideas are things that many of you can't agree to. Like, you really can't agree to a lot of these ideas. Like, you're like you might want to be tolerant of a lot of them, and that's all well and good. Thank you very much. But as far as agreeing, well, you can't really have this idea of women having rights inherently if you also agree with almost anything from Islam. And so that's why it's like, now that's the beauty of this. And with the Marxists, it's, well, at what point does the revolution become more? At what point does the revolution say no? That's always what it is with the Marxists. At what point does the revolution say no? No, we're not doing it like that, and that's it. And now you will do it the way the revolution tells you. You will do what the quote unquote revolution tells you. So this was just I thought I should put that out there, because I think there's people that here and there, and it's not so much that they're wavering on how the children of Gaza are being treated. That's not what's bothering. That they know that the morality of that's clear to them. They're like, no women, no children. But I think there's a lot of people that they're kind of like, oh, these confused kids, and it's like, no. This isn't confusion. This is what they're choosing is they're choosing something that is the nadir of what is good about America. They are actually choosing an ideology that's the nadir of what is good about America. And in that kind of, because if you show loyalty to Islam gang, then for concerts and local events, that's weird. I'm gonna have to look that up. But yeah, if you're into Islam gang, then that's, it makes that you will be rewarded That's the whole, that's the only, that's how it works. You will be rewarded. The only other way that like kind of Islam gang is cool with you is if you can show the use of overwhelming numbers and force very, very effectively against them. And then they're like, okay, we'll be cool, dude. It's cool, bro. Otherwise, nope. It's Islam gang. And, yeah. So, I guess we'll see how this goes. Bet it's going to be quite a full news day today.